What's the best marketing strategy for consultants in 2025? Let's break it down in this video. I'm going to share something that is very unpopular. It's not the kind of thing that most people want to hear, and it's not the kind of thing that most people who talk about growing consulting businesses will actually tell you. But it's the truth, and you deserve the truth. And I want to help you to build not only a consulting business that can survive, but really a consulting business that thrives. So let's start off by talking about the most important thing as it relates to a marketing strategy in 2025. Number one, you need to actually have a strategy. People use the word strategy very loosely, yet when you look at most consulting businesses, and at Consulting Success, we have the opportunity to do this every single day as we work very closely with consultants, help them to grow their businesses. And most people think that they are being strategic. They think they have a strategy, but when you ask them, what is your strategy? They have a very hard time explaining it. Strategy is not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it and everyone would be good at it. Yet strategy by itself, when executed and when planned properly, can really make the difference for you and your business. And one of the biggest parts about strategy that is very hard for people, and it's understandably hard, and that is to be different. Strategy is not about you being the same as everyone else around you. That is essentially the opposite of strategy, right? That is a lack of strategy. And the reason for that is quite simple. If you are doing the same things as everybody else, if you're saying the same things, if you appear to be the same as everybody else, then there's no real advantage for you or for your company. And so when a buyer of consulting services, right, when an organization is looking to hire you, if they view you as being the exact same as everybody else, then why should they choose you? There's no real reason to do so. So strategy is about figuring out how are you different, and then making sure that you communicate that difference. Now, it's not just about being different. You can't just be, quirky. You can't just be doing something completely different than somebody else. But if your ideal client doesn't view your difference as being valuable or an advantage for them, if there's no reason that they can see of why that difference is going to create a benefit for them, then that is the wrong difference to focus on. You want to be different, but you want that difference to create value in the eyes of your ideal client. And this means that you need to make a hard decision as a consulting business founder. And that is that you need to figure out, how are you different? And generally, when you say, how are you different, it means that you need to say no to a lot of things, right? To a lot of possible paths that you can take. It means that you need to say no to just being open and general, because if you remain open and general, if you remain the same as everybody else, saying that you do all kinds of things for all different kinds of people, then you lack strategy. And again, when times are good, meaning when there's lots of money flowing around the system, and the economy is growing, and we don't have global conflicts, and we don't have all kinds of economic data that is starting to be worrying, if that isn't present, then you can have a nice consulting business because there's just lots of opportunity, lots of money. But where we're headed right now, that doesn't seem to be the case. 2025 may turn out to be a year that for many is quite challenging. So in order for you to not only survive that, but thrive, you need to have a strategy. And that strategy is about being different. Right? It's about providing and creating more value for the clients that you want to serve than anybody else in the marketplace. You need to stand out. And if you can't make that decision to really narrow in and decide what is unique about what you do, what is different from everybody else in the market, then you will not be able to grow your consulting business regardless of what actual marketing tactic you're using. And so that's something else that I should just talk about for a moment, right? Many people view marketing, when they think strategy, what's actually going on in their mind is the marketing tactic. They're thinking about, should I be on LinkedIn? Should I speak? Should I run ads? Should I fill in the blank? And those are all channels and tactics. They're not strategy. When you understand what a strategy really is, right? It's all about being, again, very clear on how you create greater and different value from everybody else in the marketplace. You may have heard about the book Blue Ocean Strategy and finding that blue ocean. Essentially what that book is about and what strategy is about. Al Ries and Jack Trout wrote a book many years ago called Positioning. It's one of the classics, if you will, on marketing and positioning. And that book, one of the biggest factors, or one of the kind of main ideas, is about creating a category of one, or creating a category where you don't have other competitors, or very few. You are seen as the ideal choice. One other example or way to look at this is think about Southwest Airlines. Now, whatever you think, I mentioned this at an event with a bunch of consultants we did recently, and people had very mixed views of Southwest as an airline. So put your own experience or judgment about the airline itself to the side for a moment, but think about what they did and why they became so successful. Most airlines, right, try to cater to everybody. And what Southwest really did is said, hey, we're not going to cater to business class travelers anymore. We're essentially going to strip everything out of the airline experience except the most basic that is required to get you from point A to point B, because we're not adding any additional quote unquote value in terms of all of the additional features and benefits. We're just going to have the basics. But because of that, we can offer you lower prices. And so now, and if you kind of go back, right, Southwest being one of the first to really focus on that, there's a lot of LCCs, right, low-cost carriers, I believe is the term, and they're all around the world, right? Japan has them, Southeast Asia has them, Europe has them. We all know about the Ryanairs of the world and the Southwest of the world, and there's a whole bunch, right? Peach Airlines in Japan. There are all these low-cost carriers. So what initially Southwest created, right, they found that category, and that allowed them to really grow significantly and be quite profitable. You want to have that same kind of application in your own consulting business. What makes you different? Another part of this in terms of, let's talk about strategy. Now, I know you might have been thinking, oh, I want to learn the best tactic. Should I be on LinkedIn, or should I be running webinars, or should I be speaking? And we'll talk about that in a moment. I'll get to that. But before we do that, and because that's what most people just talk about, the problem is if you spend time on just thinking only about the tactic or the channel, you're missing what actually makes the biggest difference. 20% of the success of marketing is going to really be about the channel, right? 80% of success comes from the actual strategy, the messaging, the positioning, the differentiation. So another way to look at that is that you could really choose almost any channel as long as it reaches your ideal client. And if you have the right strategy in place, if you have the right messaging, the right positioning, your chances of being successful are significantly greater than having no strategy and finding the quote unquote best channel or tactic. So let's come back to this, right? Another key part of your strategy to be successful in 2025 is being different, right? Having an opinion, being a contrarian. You want to figure out what is the standard, what is the status quo in your area, whatever your expertise is. And what do you do differently? What are most people thinking and doing that you don't believe in? You see that there's a better way to do things. If everything was already great, if there was no better way, then you really wouldn't have any opportunity to grow. There'd be no need for your expertise and your services. But the reality is that in most places, there is a need because organizations have problems and they don't have the best way to solve those problems, or they're looking to achieve specific results and they don't have the experience or the expertise or the capacity to achieve them. And so that's where you and your company come in, right? You add that expertise, you add that experience, you help them to go from where they are to where they want to be to solve that problem to get the result. But you want to figure out what is the belief, what is the status quo, what is the standard that most people kind of think about or go about that is not working, that you are fighting against. Who is the quote unquote enemy, even though you're not thinking in terms of fighting a true enemy, but who are you rallying against? What do you see should be different in the marketplace? And you need to communicate that because that will help you to start attracting, right? I've talked before on other videos and also over at consultingsuccess.com. We have lots of articles, studies, podcast episodes. And one of the big themes that we keep seeing over and over is that the most effective marketing and messaging is polarizing, meaning that you don't try and be for everybody. You need to stand out. You need to pick who do you truly want to attract and who do you want to repel. If you're trying to attract everyone with your messaging, trying to say that you can do all things for all people, then you are just a commodity, right? You are just the standard, and the standard doesn't get the majority of the business, right? The majority of the marketplace that is standard and average fights over the scraps. Those that are truly strategic, those that take time and take the right actions and actually have a strategy and communicate effectively to the market to attract the attention of the market in the right way, those are the ones that get the majority of the business and the opportunity. And this is a very direct application of the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20. And you see this play out in all aspects of life, business, science, and so forth. Now, once you've developed a clear kind of stance and an opinion and a perspective that is different, right? You know what you're kind of going against. The next thing that you need to do is you need to communicate it consistently. And so this is where developing and promoting your own IP, right? Your own intellectual property, your content becomes a very big part of the strategy. And notice that we're not talking about tactics, right? Because when you have beliefs and you're fighting against the status quo and you're sharing a better way, you're sharing a different way, right? You're bringing data to it, your experience, your expertise. You're finding what is different. Again, you're not just trying to be the same thing as everybody else. Now you have to communicate that. And there's no better way to communicate that than through content. So what does that mean, right? More specifically, well, content can be writing, posts on LinkedIn. It can be a newsletter. It can be articles that you publish. It can be studies that you do, right? It can be kind of data gathering and then talking about the data that you're gathering, whether that's from your own data or you're collecting data from different sources and just interpreting that data, which is what a lot of people do very successfully. If you look at places like X, right, kind of former Twitter, some of the most successful accounts on there are taking data and then just simply explaining it and talking about it. But it can also be, talks. You go and give, whether it's online or in person, right? Webinars, executive briefings. You could be going on podcasts consistently. You could be doing videos like this on YouTube. The tactic, the channel by itself isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is that you make sure that whatever channel or tactic you use, it will reach your ideal clients and that you're doing it consistently, because you need to be communicating over and over and over again. That is how people will remember what you do. That is how people will start to feel that they can trust you. They will feel that you not only are showing up consistently, but you really know what you're talking about. And so as you do that over and over, because most people won't, most people will kind of dip and dabble in it here and there, and they're not doing it consistently. So you, by doing it consistently, by showing up over and over again, you are the one that will ultimately command the greatest attention and interest, and therefore opportunity. Now, another big part of developing a very effective marketing strategy in 2025 is to stop thinking about automation and start thinking about relationships. The business of consulting is not a volume-based business. It's a value-based business, meaning that most consultants don't need hundreds or thousands of clients in any given year to achieve or even exceed their annual revenue goals. Our studies have shown that most consulting firms have between 5 and 20 clients per year. Depending on your model, that number might be higher, right? It might be lower, but generally you're not looking for hundreds of thousands of clients. And so therefore, don't try and automate your way. Don't try and blast messages to people. Don't try and just be quote unquote efficient. Instead, be effective, right? Really target your ideal clients. Reach out to have conversations with them, add value for them, invest in those relationships. Personalize your messages. Don't just send templated messages that are clearly going out to many, many people all at once. And so the more that you think about really caring, the more that you try and tailor your marketing, your outreach, your follow-up, how you show up specifically for your ideal client, and again, invest time and even money into those relationships, those are the things that will bear fruit. Because when the going gets tough and buyers of consulting services inside organizations, whether it's the CEO, the COO, whether it's a VP, whether it's a director, they will cut budgets, especially from those that they don't have a strong relationship with, or they will not even consider doing work with those that they don't have a strong relationship with. But when you have a strong relationship, when you've shown up consistently, when you've focused on adding value consistently, you'll be the last one to have your budget cut, right? They're going to fight to keep you on because they not only value what you are creating for them, but they value the relationship. They value your commitment to support them, to advise them, to be there for them. So that's the best marketing strategy in 2025. I know that many people who might talk about, business and growing a business, they're going to start off and try and share with you the hottest, the hypiest, the most trendy and exciting new marketing tactic and all that kind of stuff. But that won't get you the result that you want. What you need to focus on first before you actually think about the tactic or the channel is to make sure that you have a real strategy in place. Once you have that, then you can figure out what is the channel, what is the tactic to use that ultimately will create the best result for you in your business. If you want more guidance on this topic, if you want help to actually develop a robust and compelling and clear and powerful strategy for your consulting business, then click on the link below this video or reach out to us at consultingsuccess.com.